In this video, we're going to be going over hot takes that you sent to me about Lord of the Mysteries, and we're going to determine if it's a bad hot take, an okay hot take, or a good hot take, with there even being a prize money reward of $10 for the best hot take. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. Up first, we are jumping straight into the controversy of Circle of Inevitability, and we have the hot take by Mr. Supernova, Koi wasn't bad. Now, I actually think this is a good hot take. This isn't a bad hot take because the first few volumes of Circle of Inevitability were amazing and I absolutely loved them. Now, yes, as we approach the latter half of the series, the quality does decline, but that's fine because as a standalone novel, it is still extremely good. Now, yes, it isn't up to par as a sequel to Lord of the Mysteries because of how good Lord of the Mysteries was, but still, Koi definitely wasn't bad and I definitely agree with this hot take. Let's get into the next one. Next up, we have a hot take by Cosminus saying Algar is kinda mid. He started as an experienced sequencer who guided everyone, and yet almost every Tarot Club member either caught up or surpassed him by Circle of Inevitability. Franca, who was sequence 6 at the very start of Circle of Inevitability, years after he became a demigod, fought 3 separate witch sequence 3s during the death of Primordial Demoness, and yet Algar only fought 1. He's just washed. Now, I semi-agree with this. I think this is our first hot take that goes right in the middle at the mid ones, because Algar definitely isn't completely washed. I mean, think about it, 90% of the verse, 99% of Beyonders never even reached the sequence 2 level, yet at the same time, for being one of the main characters, for being in the Tarot Club, his progress is relatively slow. Now, I don't really know what else could have been done with him, because if you make him one sequence higher, suddenly he's very top in the verse, but where he is right now is a bit worse than what we expected for him, so it's a bit hard to balance him out, but I definitely don't think he's completely mid, but I do think there could have been more potential with him, whether that be more fights with him or more fights as a Tarot Club with him involved. Anyways, that's my opinion on things. Let me know what you think about this. I think this is a very good hot take, but I think it's right in the middle of being right and wrong. Let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have Kryak, Refrigerator Emperor, saying Lumion is a better MC than Klein and is more enjoyable to read. Okay, I'll put it like this. I'm gonna say that Lumion isn't a better MC, but he is more enjoyable for me personally. This is an incredibly subjective take, right? Subjective being your own opinion, right? So this definitely isn't an objective one. I think it's completely subjective. I'm gonna put in the mid tier because I think Klein is a better main character, but I 100% agree with Lumion being more enjoyable. I love Lumion. I love him so much. I love the Hunter pathway. I love his whole style of combat, how it differs from Klein. And again, so we're gonna put this in the mid tier and we're gonna move on to the next one. Circle of Inevitability would have been better if we had a main character who was actually related to the main cast instead of someone like Lumion. My opinion is that the main character should have been Klein's niece. Very interesting. Very interesting hot take. I'm not sure if I agree or not. Again, we cannot really speak on what Circle of Inevitability should have been because we're never going to be writers that are capable of writing like Cuttlefish can be. So if he had a vision of someone who isn't related to the main cast, then I would 100% trust his vision when it comes to that. And Circle of Inevitability again didn't end up as badly as everyone says, just the ending was kind of rushed and hence why the quality went down. Overall, I loved Lumion, so I cannot agree with this. Even though 7 people voted yes to this and no one voted no to this, I'm going to disagree. I'm going to place it in the bad tier and we're going to move on. Next up, we have a very safe hot take. I'm not sure if this even qualifies as a hot take, but Klein not being able to win against CW is the best and most logical outcome that could happen by sprouting Void of Revelations. Hey, I agree. It's as simple as that. We place it in the good tier. We move on. Next up, we have David saying Force X Shio is the best LoTM ship and canon. Next up, we have a hot take by A. Klein Moretti is the most relatable god in fiction. He literally starts out as a normal person in society, barely being able to live a kind of normal life with his brother and sister. He's not a chosen one or someone born with a power and yet to earn everything step by step. 100% agree so far. Also, readers relate to his insecurities, his careful planning and just his humanity in a world that has almost none left. Don't forget the fact that he's not brave because he's fearless. He's brave because he's terrified and does it anyway. Damn, I like this. He hides behind the role of the fool, but behind it is still Klein, the guy who loves coffee, overthinks things and loves his friends and family. And unlike other godly beings, Klein remains funny and snarky, which I love about him. 100% agree. Now this isn't a super, flaming hot take, but it is a very safe take, a very safe hot take, and I 100% agree. So we're going to place it in the good tier, and we're going to move on to the next one. Next up, we have Quill saying Supernova Dominator is the GOAT. And again, nothing too crazy with this. He was definitely very cool. I like his whole symbolism with weight, gravity, etc. And yeah, we'll place it in the good tier, and we'll move on to the next one. Next up, we have Tasty Pig saying Klein plus Audrey and Klein plus Force are good ships. Again, ships, I don't think they are that relevant to Lord of the Mysteries, but I like, it's fun to do in the fandom as long as it doesn't get too toxic. I think Klein and Audrey is a widely accepted one, but I do not see Klein and Force. So we're gonna put this in the mid tier. I agree with your Klein and Audrey, but I don't really agree with your Klein and Force, but it is a hot take. Hey, fair enough, props to you. We're gonna put it in the mid tier, we're gonna move on. Next up, we have a hot take by Mahiro saying Adam is overrated. We're gonna throw this straight into the trash here. There's no debate here. Adam is the absolute GOAT. Arguably the best character in the entirety of the novel. There's no debate about that, right? Including ASG. So yeah, this guy's going straight in the trash tier. I'm probably gonna ban this guy. Let's move on to next. Next up, we have Amon saying the taste of the Mother Goddess of Depravity isn't bad. Now, I'm not sure if Amon tried this before in the series or not, but again, okay, I agree. We'll put it in the middle. We'll move on to the next one. Yes, I can attest to this. I tried it myself. It really isn't that bad. Of course, she has the authorities over some very good pathways, some very decent ones. So we're gonna give this a yes, and we're gonna move on. Next up, we have my boy LN Historian saying first 5 volumes of Circle of Inevitability are greater than the first 5 volumes of LoTM in writing. Very interesting. We'll get to that in a sec. Same with Jenna and Franca, all side characters in LoTM besides Adam. Oh boy. Okay. This is a very, very spicy one. I don't think people like this one. 11 clown emoji reactions. All right, y'all don't need to clown on him. First 5 volumes of Koi. I will say this. I think I was about to say it depends on what, but he said in writing. I think it's around equal. I don't think necessarily this is a terrible take. The first half definitely isn't terrible. The first half can be argued for to even be a good take, right? The first 5 volumes of Koi were an absolute joy to read. I'm not the best when it comes to analyzing writing, so I'm not exactly going to give him an exact definitive on that because, again, I think it's subjective even when we're talking about writing. So we're going to give it a mid-tier for that first half, but that second half is diabolical, man. That second half is absolutely diabolical. That is... I'm sorry, man. I love you, but that is terrible. That is terrible. That is a terrible hot take. All side characters in LoTM besides Adam. Right, we just talked about how Amon is the best, man. Amon is the GOAT, and Amon 100% is better than Jenna and Franca. 100%. I don't even need to talk about other side characters because Amon himself slams every Circle of Inevitability side character, slams every other side character in the series, arguably even Adam. So that's a terrible second half, right? If you said besides Amon and Adam, maybe I would have argued for you, but I cannot argue with you if Amon is in the conversation. So first half being mid tier, second half being bad tier, it's going to equal out to be around the bad tier to around the mid tier. Overall, not great hot takes. I think you're rage baiting, so please next time submit an actual hot take that you believe in. But again, the first half I think is not rage bait, but the second half definitely is. Let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have another rage bait by Watermelon Wilderness saying Gehrman Sparrow was not badass at all and is the most overrated persona or character in general. With this going in the trash tier, obvious rage bait. Please try better next time. I love you, Wilderness. I love you. But don't rage bait, man. Gehrman Sparrow's absolutely him. We're not going to deny that just because there's beef going on between Marilyn Glazers and Gehrman Glazers. They're both extremely good, so let's not forget about that. Let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have Shiny saying LoTM could be significantly shorter and still retain the same quality. I disagree with this. I don't agree at all. I think LoTM should have been longer, but that's unrealistic for a cuttlefish to write. I'm going to put this in the trash tier. I'm going to put this in the bad tier, not the trash tier, and move on. There is no way we're going to get 3 trash tiers in a row with Lev saying this novel is garbage. The storytelling is horrible and it feels soulless. Only NPCs could enjoy a book like this. Garbage. Again. So, yeah, there's no reason to go over this. This is a rage bait. We're going to throw this in the trash tier. We're going to move on with our lives. This guy's getting banned. Let's go on. Next up, we have Classified Polish Vegetable. I love this guy, by the way. Saying Klein is a fraud that wins mainly by luck and by using his Sephiroth cheat code to beat his opponents. I would say it's a 60 luck to 40 brains ratio because he is still very smart. Okay. To prove my point, let's look at Volume 1. Klein gets the Sapphire Castle, of course, but then he managed to get lucky enough to get Algar the Ultimate Glazer. Algar Slander, okay. Then he gets lucky enough to get the perfect Roselle Diary. This diary makes him pick Seer. Picked any other pathway, he would lose the Grey Fog. So very lucky. Could have gotten any other diary and he would die in Volume 1. That's huge luck. Then he is lucky enough to have a Sequence 2 Professor as his friend, which lets him kill Kilangos, but we are getting too far ahead. When he is fighting the Sequence 7 Magician, he only survives because of his cheat code. This is a call out to you at Lumion Central, because you made a video calling the Magician a fraud, but I find this very unfair, because Klein could basically counterspell any effect that wasn't immediate, so any Beyonder at Sequence 7 would have giant trouble fighting Klein, just because of his cheat code. After that comes the biggest luck. Klein gets in Volume 1, the Sun Charms. A grade 3 sealed artifact is conveniently is conveniently whatever and contains the blood of the sun god. This blood is conveniently a material capable of making sequence 4 sun charms. Help Klein beat Megos. Klein's lucky enough to get not one shot by the eternal blazing sun. Klein also 2v1s the sequence 6 demoness and somehow wins. Even when I was reading the chapters, I couldn't believe how the demoness lost. For the most part, Klein was 1v1ing the demoness and somehow survived for long enough and even dealt damage. The 2 sequence difference plus the fact that Klein wasn't much smarter means that he won by luck because she was more experienced, skilled, and was very close in intelligence. I need to wait 6 hours because word limit, I have much more to say. You didn't say much more, so I'm still waiting on you for that. But hey, I'm not going to judge you for that. I'm going to put this in the mid tier. I agree with some things, but I disagree with others. That sequence 7 magician was definitely a fraud. There is no excuse. I don't care. I don't GAF. If you have Sephiroth, I don't care. A 2 sequence difference is too large. Anyone who loses that is a fraud. It's plain and simple, right? Okay. Klein got lucky against the sequence 6 demoness because he was 2 sequences below. Yes, you can make an argument for him being lucky, but you cannot make an argument for that demoness, for that magician, for not being frauds, because they are. It's as simple as that. She was more, let's take the demoness for example. She was more experienced, she was more skilled, she was very close to intelligence, so why didn't she win? She's a fraud. It's as simple as that, man. You're helping me out. You're fighting for me, man. You're saying that the 2 sequence difference is because Klein got lucky, so you're saying she's a fraud. Same thing applies for this magician, man. I don't care if he had the Sephiroth. I don't care that he could counterspell. A 2 sequence difference. Are you kidding me, man? A seer versus a sequence 7 magician. It's of his own pathway, man. It's of his own pathway. That is the worst matchup you can have. If you're a sequence 9 of any pathway, if I'm a sequence 9 hunter and I go against sequence 7 pyromaniac, man, I'm losing that unless the other guy's a fraud. And that's exactly what the sequence 7 magician was in my opinion. Still, I agree with your other things. I think Klein definitely was lucky early on, but you can argue that's definitely for other reasons with Evernight helping him out as well, right? There's definitely always behind the scenes things that we might not even know of. But yeah, definitely, I agree sort of with that part, but I disagree with the magician part. Still a fraud. We're going to put this in the mid tier. We're going to move on. I really like this hot take though. A lot of room for discussion. Yes, we have Miss Chief Veggie saying Audrey is better than Force. 100% enjoyability wise, I 100%, actually not really. I think Force is better in enjoyability, Force is better in writing, but Audrey is just best girl, so she's better in my opinion. Let's move on. We're placing this in the amazing tier. Let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have Peachy Hisoka saying it's hot take time. Usugui is better than LoTM and Circumnavigability. Usugui is my favorite manga of all time. I think it's the greatest manga of all time. There's no doubt about that. Yes, I think it's better than Vagabond, Berserk, etc. But LoTM and Koi just slam, man. I'm sorry. It's just the truth. Maybe you can make an argument for Koi, but LoTM, there's no doubt. Let's move on to the next one. Now next up we have one by Cool Vegetable. While LoTM and Koi power system is good, it is not the best, and abilities and pathway system were inspired from somewhere else like Visionary from Bleach or Abyss Pathways, basically unorthodox cultivators. In LoTM and Cuttlefish didn't use power system properly. Even after 2 full novels completed, he's still releasing information to complete, and that also would take more than 1 year to complete. So in conclusion, Pathways power system is good, but Cuttlefish didn't properly use it in my opinion. Now the English isn't great, but we're not going to judge based off of that. I sort of agree, but I think you put it in a very extreme way. I definitely have stated this before. People who've watched my videos before definitely know that I am of the opinion that the whole outer deity pathways, all that stuff, maybe shouldn't have existed in the first place, and he should have expanded on the already existing standard pathways. But I understand where he's coming from with them, so I can't exactly blame him for them, right? It's just expanding the world and building on the world building, which is already top 1 in fiction, so I can't exactly disprove that. But I definitely don't think it's as extreme as saying it is not the best in fiction, because in my opinion it is definitely top 3, top 5, and I think just because he takes inspiration from other works doesn't make it bad necessarily, right? Cuttlefish has recently put out a list, and on it there were like over 200 pieces of media that he took inspiration from, and that is a good thing. Taking inspiration is never a bad thing, and he's very open about where he takes inspiration from, with direct references to Bloodborne, for example. I think if someone takes inspiration from something, doesn't credit, doesn't say where he got it from, etc., then that's a bad thing. This applies to everything in life. But if someone takes your thing, is inspired by it, doesn't one-to-one copy it, and gives credit, then definitely there's no issue with that, so I don't think that's a point. Anyways, we're gonna put this in the bad tier, but I see where he's coming from, and it has potential to improve. Let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have Heart saying gooning to Demoness is overrated. Goon to Roselle instead. Now, depends, man. This is the most intellectual question. This is the most intellectual hot take I've ever seen. We're gonna put this in the mid tier because Demonesses are still the goats, even though they were guys before. So I'm not sure, but we're gonna put this in the good tier. Actually, Roselle's the goat, so just because of him, we'll put that in the good tier, and we'll move on with our lives. Let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have Sage saying Mr. Door is like Kaido, full of rumors and hype, only to be nothing. I'm gonna put this in the mid tier simply because of the fact that, well, Kaido first of all wasn't a fraud. Kaido definitely wasn't a fraud. He was soloing absolutely everything in One Piece, but this isn't about that. Mr. Door definitely isn't nothing. Yes, what he actually participated in the 5th epoch is nothing, but still, his relevance to the story was absolutely not simply nothing, so I disagree with that part. But if you're talking about pure action-wise in the 5th epoch when he came back, I have no choice but to agree with you. That's simply the truth. But overall, as a history of LoTM, by the way, watch my video, that's my best video by far, I disagree with you. So we're gonna put it in the mid tier, we're gonna move on to the next one. Demoness is the best and most practical out of the standard 22 pathways if we ignore this symbolism bullshit. I 100% agree with this. I don't think maybe you can make a case for other pathways being up there without symbolism stuff, but in general, it is already a top 5, top 10 pathway. There's no doubt about that. So if you remove all the things that weigh you down with the symbolism, then it is 100% up there. I agree. Definitely in a good tier. And let's move on to the next one. Next up is one I absolutely love by LoTM fanatics. Shio should have never joined the Tarot Club, and there's a 95% chance that the events of the story would have had little to no change at all. 100%. In Lord of the Mysteries 1, I 100% agree. In Circumnavigability, yes, she did a tiny bit, but again, wasted potential, terrible character. I never liked her. I think there's a guy out there who's a pretty popular Lord of the Mysteries, not creator, but talks about Lord of the Mysteries, and he is a complete gooner for Shio, so I'm not gonna say his name, but hey, it's pretty obvious and it's just weird. I don't like Shio. She looks like a kid. And well, she is pretty young, but it's just weird. Everything to do with Shio is weird. Not a great character, not good fights, and Gunner fandom. So we're gonna leave Shio alone. We're gonna put that in the good tier because I agree with this take and move on to the next one. Next up, we have a hot take by Yami saying the scale of LoTM is its own demise because Cuttlefish really tried recreating an entire IP that is its own enemy by not having legacy authors come and expand upon it. Thus, the reason why many characters are not expanded upon and feel just enjoyable, likable, and nothing beyond that. Now, I sort of agree with this. I think that, again, I think Cuttlefish could have done more work on characters, but then the book would have ended up being 10,000 chapters long. So I see why he wouldn't expand on characters that are even the sort of close ones, the main characters, such as the Tarot Club, such as Audrey and Algar, like we talked about before. So I, again, sort of agree, but also don't agree because I think the book would have ended up being too long. I think we're going to come in, we're going to place it in the middle, and we're going to move on. Next up, we have a hot take by Gunner Monkey. Circumnavigability should have ended without us seeing the apocalypse, just the barrier falling and everything being left up to uncertainty. I agree, end Circumnavigability there, wrap things up, take a few years off, come back, write a third novel about the apocalypse. That's an entire novel, right? He was sick of the stories, so he decided to rush the apocalypse. The entire thing was done in one volume, right? One small volume. I remember making a video, I remember having big plans about talking about Circumnavigability in the future, and out of nowhere, I wake up one day and the book is finished, right? Boom, out of nowhere, within 5 chapters, one of the main characters dies. Not Tarot Club, which I wish, by the way. One of another main characters, and boom, Lumion wraps things up, Lovecraftian ending, and everything's done for. Honestly, this is going to be in contention for the prize money. I 100% agree. We're going to move on to the next one. Next up, we have Fire Ichigo for real with another hot take saying Bleach greater than LoTM in writing and power scaling. Yuha Baha stomps the verse. Yes, you pronounce that Yuha Baha. Are we serious? Are we actually serious right now? Are we actually serious? This is going in the trash tier. Writing LoTM, no difficulties. And power scaling, I'm sorry man, Yuha Baha stands no chance. Right, you put Yuha Baha against the original creator, you said the whole verse. Put him against the original creator, what's he gonna do, man? What's he gonna do? Get out of here, man. Get out of here. You're getting banned. I'm joking. I love you, bro. But yeah, this is just not true. Trash tier, next hot take. Now, next up, we have another hot take that I agree with by AJ9K. Symbolism ruined Koi. The whole Omabella, Zedus, Lumion, Primordial God Almighty, Cheek, M-God stuff was bad. I 100% agree. I did not like the whole symbolism stuff. I don't think it ruined Koi, but I think you're just meaning that as an extreme. But I definitely think it like reduced the quality of everything. I was not a fan of symbolism. I think it has extremely high potential, but it is too hard to write about. I agree with this. Let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have Aniket Kamoor saying Klein is gay. Next up, we have a hot take by Hailey. LoTM fandom is the worst out of the big 3. I got scans too, Lamau, of how they were being an ass to the author while the book was releasing. Now, depends what you mean by big 3. Okay, we're gonna put Lord of the Mysteries, Reverend Insanity, and ORV Shadow Slave. We're just gonna say big 4, okay? Just to not start any arguments here. Reverend Insanity is 1000% worse than the Lord of the Mysteries fandom. Lord of the Mysteries fandom can be pretty toxic sometimes, but in every community you're ever going to meet, especially related to web novels, there's always going to be some level of toxicity. But I think the Reverend Insanity fandom, we all know that one screenshot of a guy saying he's what 22 talking to 15-year-olds and just being edgy in general, you know, claiming everyone who doesn't read Reverend Insanity should, you know, end their lives, etc. keys. So I definitely think the Reverend Insanity is a bit more toxic and a bit worse. But again, I love the book. Reverend Insanity is top 2, top 1 arguably for me. But I think Lord of the Mysteries is bad, but I don't think it's the worst out of them. I think the other fandoms are significantly worse or equal to of Lord of the Mysteries. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have a hot take by Darkfire saying Cuttlefish shouldn't have made Koi. It would have been better if Klein was the protagonist until the end of the apocalypse. Now, I disagree with this one. I think if you don't want a separate book, if you don't want Koi at all, you don't want Klein as another protagonist, you don't want a sequel at all, then okay, Koi should have never happened for you. Fair enough, I get you, I understand you, right? But if you want Klein as a protagonist in the apocalypse, and you want a sequel to explain that, then I think you're wrong, because Klein wouldn't fit in that thing because of Celestial Worthy's dream, etc. There would have been too much to change, right? So either I think you pick, you want a sequel, you want about the apocalypse, then you accept Koi's existence, or you don't want to see Koi, but then you accept that you're never going to see the apocalypse because Klein is never going to be the protagonist leading up to it, because of course he has to deal with many other issues. So I just don't think it's feasible to have both at the same time. Either you have to pick, you don't want any sequel at all, but you know, no more Klein, or you want a sequel but Klein isn't the main character. That's my opinion on things. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Let's move on to the next one. Now, next up, we have an extremely spicy one by Simp Demoness. Audrey is one of the most generic characters. Her entire plot is ass. She just has money and good looks going for her. Now, I actually agree. Audrey is best girl in the series for me. She's my favorite girl in the entire series and arguably top 5 in entire fiction for me. But honestly, when I take a look at it, I kind of agree. When I think about it, she only had 2 or 3 battles in the entire series. Yes, in the entire series. At least we saw more of Force, for example, in Circumnavigability, helping out Lumion, etc. She was even in Volume 1. Miss Magician, it's all great. But Audrey isn't even in the series that much. Not even in Koi, not even Lord of the Mysteries. She's just one of those characters that was even more sidelight than Olga, in my opinion. But still, I'm not sure. I still love her, but I'm sorry, but I agree with this take. That's just how it is, and let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have a hot take by Ajoka Simp number 1. I for real think that CF isn't that good at writing characters. The depth we see in MCs seems more like an attempt than true depth, and God is just an excuse for character blandness. Even the character development, for example, in Audrey's characters seem lackluster and more stereotypical than actual progression, and she still seems like a naive child at the end of LoTM. Overall, I don't think he's horrible at it or that I could do better, but I don't understand the hype around these characters. Ooh, this is a extremely spicy one that again I sort of agree with, but at the same time I think you're taking it too far. He is definitely good at writing characters. Maybe he's not as good as everyone claims him to be, and maybe that's what you're trying to say. Actually, I agree with this, guys. I agree with this. I like the example of Audrey again. We're going back to this, and I think the Lord of the Mysteries community is finally waking up to see that Audrey isn't written that well. Audrey isn't a great character. I absolutely adore Audrey. Don't get things wrong. Don't take words out of context from my mouth. I love Audrey, my favorite girl. But she isn't well written, and I definitely think that Godhead as an excuse to do that may or may not be true. So we're gonna put this in the good tier, but we're gonna sideline it for later. I might have to rethink about that. That's a very spicy one. I love it. Let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have Sage saying Amon is not that terrifying. He's a fraud. Very big words coming out here. He has no victims. He didn't kill any of the Terror Club members or Klein's family or anyone remotely close to him. All he does is try to be scary in the background, and y'all get scared, question mark, crying emoji. With Klein's nature, he should take them hostage and threaten him, but the fact that he couldn't do this is just Cuddle trying to save Terror Club members' ass because he couldn't afford to lose them. Imagine if Force or Audrey got parasited. He better watch his back when he's going out. Honestly, I kind of agree. I disagree with the fact that he's a fraud because he's definitely not a fraud, right? We're not going to be calling Amon a fraud out here. You're going to have to sleep with one eye open because he's coming for you. But I do agree with the fact that I think a Terror Club member should have died. I think it's absolutely unacceptable that all of them survived in such a difficult world to live in. I think that is a clear case example of plot armor. I think at least one of them should have died in Lord of the Mysteries 1, if not 2 of them. And I think at least 1 or 2 of them should have died in Circumnavigability as well. Again, there's no way that all of them managed to survive until the end. I think it's incredibly unrealistic for such a realistic story when it comes to everything else, right? It's so realistic when it comes to everything else, but when it comes to main characters dying, it's not so realistic, right? This makes the comparisons between LoTM and One Piece, right? LoTM people saying it's the One Piece of China make it even more accurate because One Piece has the exact same issues with main characters never dying. So I agree with this. We're gonna put it in the mid tier though because Amon's not a fraud, and we're gonna move on. Next up, by Great Goon Immortal Venerable. alright? Not gonna judge. I deadass mean this, and I'm not even trying to rage bait, but I genuinely do not like the full pathway. It's strong and overpowered, there's no denying that, but it is overly glazed. The only way it could be powerful and OP is it had Klein, who was a smart person in the pathway. 99% of people are dumbasses and wouldn't get past Seer. I don't like Bizarre Sorcerers, I get its abilities, but Parasite and Sequence 4 Door are just more appealing and have cooler abilities. Scholar of Yore is cool, but you gotta have resources to even use it. I really dislike Miracle Invoker, but it's mostly just because of my personality. I don't want to grant people miracles. Alright man, that's you. Attend the Mysteries is cool, Sequence 0 is booty cheeks and is absolutely boring AF to me. In conclusion, full pathway is for the 1% of smart people, overly glazed and booty cheeks. Now, okay, I'm gonna put this in the mid tier because I definitely think it is overglazed by me as well, but I definitely disagree with most of your points. Sequence 4 Bizarre Sorcerer is insane. The others are definitely not more appealing in my opinion. It is, well, in my opinion, one of the best Sequence 4s in the entire series. Sequence 3, even if you do not have resources, you are a complete one-man army, right? It is the strongest Scholar of Yours, the strongest Sequence 3 in the series. I don't really get that point as well, but I understand where you're coming from with Sequence 0 being boring, and I understand that it doesn't fit your personality necessarily, but I definitely disagree with the whole fact that it is not as strong as everyone makes it out seem. I definitely think it is 100% as strong. Yes, you have to be smart, but I definitely don't think it's as hard as you say it is. But I see where you're coming from if it's not your personality, and I definitely agree with the overly glazed part, as I myself do overly glaze it. So we're gonna put this in the mid tier, and we're gonna move on to the next one. Next up, we have Amnesia saying people saying Klein got carried by Safari Castle shouldn't be a hot take. Of course, I agree. As for the actual hot take, Adam is greater than Amon overall and not in a fight. Only read LoTM as of now. Oof. Now the debate between these brothers are always crazy, and I will say one thing. I think if it's just LoTM, I preferred Amon, but if you take in circumnavigability, I preferred Adam. Now I don't know if many people agree with that, but because you said just LoTM and you said Adam Amon, I disagree with you. I think Amon was better in LoTM, but Adam was better in circumnavigability, right? Especially with this conclusion and everything. I'm not going to spoil too much. So I disagree with this, but I'm still going to put it in the mid tier because they're so incredibly close to each other. They're brothers, man. They're father, brother, father, son, whatever you want to call them. Very complicated relationship, but I absolutely love them. So I'm going to put this in the mid tier. And yeah, let's go over the grand winner. Now, in third place for the grand prize, I have LoTM Fanatic's take of about Shio and how she should have never joined the Tarot Club. The only reason I'm not putting this at number 1, even though this is the one I agreed the most with, 100%, is because this is sort of a wide-known fact. This isn't as much of a hot take as the others that I agree with. So this goes at number 3. Very good job. I love this hot take. Let's go over the second place. At number 2, I have Simp Demon saying Audrey is one of the most generic characters. An entire plot is ass. She just has money and good looks going for her. Again, I 100% agree with this. It hurts my heart to say this because she is my favorite character, one of my favorite girls in fiction. But this is just facts, and it's a hot take because many people don't agree with it, but it is simply true. Let's move on to number 1, the grand prize. And the grand prize goes to Gunner Monkey for the one that people disagree with the most, yet the one I agree with the most. Circumnavigability should have ended without us seeing the apocalypse, just the barrier falling and everything being left up to uncertainty. Man, I agree so much. I think he should have taken a break, written the apocalypse as a whole separate book, and then should have written about the 4th epoch, and then should have written about the Western continent. That was what should have happened to Lord of the Mysteries. Of course, in the ideal world where Cuttlefish had hundreds of years to write or whatever, but of course he needs breaks. He got sick of the world, so I completely get him. I agree with this hot take. I think this is the best hot take simply because of the fact that here you can see that everyone disagrees with this. People are calling him crazy. People are giving him skull emojis. Not a single person agreed with him, I think. But I do. So you're gonna win the $10 for the fact that nobody agreed with you, but I do, and I like that a lot. I like the underdog story. Always, the underdog always has to win. So I'm gonna give you the $10. Congrats. DM me on Discord or I will DM you. And yeah, thank you guys all so much for watching. See you guys in the next one. Love you guys.